Hey guys, we've been on a little bit of hiatus for Brown's thoughts. Miles Garrett met the media on Friday after officially signing his contract with this historic extension with the Cleveland Browns after the whole trade request that didn't happen. And he stays. And, look, we can debate, there's been stuff that's been published about his lack of leadership, him showing up late to meetings. Look, whatever. Like at this point, listen, I'm just glad that he's still around. And it could be money, whatever. The guy's earned it. Like he's one of the greatest Browns to ever put on the uniform, to ever put on the orange and brown, and wear that helmet. Like, and he's been through a lot. So like I've always sided with Miles Garrett in this thing. I reserve the right to change my opinion when it comes to some of the stuff that's been out there. But that's not what this video is about. So there are a couple things. First of all, Miles Garrett did an interview with Andrew Siciliano. Love Andrew. Did a great job in the radio booth for the Cleveland Browns this year, taking over for the legendary Jim Donovan. So he did an interview, and basically there was a question that was asked of like, "Hey, did you get any assurances of what's going on at quarterback?" And Miles was very coy about it, and basically was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of know. I can't say what it is." And it's led to a lot of speculation about what he was talking about. And everybody seems to think, and I've seen this from multiple influencers, and you guys know who I'm targeting. You know who you are if you watch this channel. Um, they seem to think it's Shedeur. And let me ask you guys a question. Do you think if Miles Garrett signed up for $40 million a year, historical extension, he's signing up for a rookie quarterback who's not even close to being the top pick in this draft, in my opinion? Like I do not understand what this fan base is thinking when they're saying to themselves, "Oh, okay, yeah, we need to take," because I've seen Nathan Segura, who's Andrew's radio partner in the booth, and I love Nathan. I think he's done an amazing job in the booth, taking over for Doug Deacon, who was a legend in the booth with Jim Donovan. Um, but I completely disagree that they have to take a quarterback up to two, and that's going to ultimately fix the situation that's going on in Cleveland. And if you're thinking that Miles Garrett is surmising to the fact that, hey, they're going to take Shedeur Sanders, maybe that is the case. But I'm here to tell you it is not going to work. It is not going to work. Okay. And I think it's a massive overpay and a massive overdraft in terms of who you're picking. I kind of liken this to the situation that happened in 2017 when the Browns were discussing at number one whether or not to take Mitch Trubisky or, or take Miles Garrett. And they took Miles Garrett, which was the right pick, which proved to be the right pick. Mitch Trubisky has been a journeyman quarterback that can't stay. Like he's been on I think he's been on three teams now in the NFL since he got drafted in 2017. But this notion that the Browns have to take a quarterback at all costs, even if Cam Ward goes number one, is a bullshit narrative. It's a bullshit narrative. Like I'm even lukewarm on Cam Ward. And it's like, if Miles Garrett is signing up for $40 million a year, you want him to be with a rookie quarterback? And look, I'm not saying that, you've got Miles Garrett in the can for more years on his contract. And yes, his prime is coming up. So obviously the time is of the essence. But let's be real here. The Browns have a lot of other needs. Quarterback is not strong in this draft. I say, get a veteran guy. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett needs to start. I think that'd be ridiculous. But hey, if he ends up competing and somehow comes away and wins this job, then you've got to at least think of it some way. The guy was a first round pick. I know that it hasn't worked out very well early on in his career, but I don't think I don't think he's really had an offensive coordinator or play caller like Kevin Stefanski. I mean, yeah, he had Kellen Moore last year, but he was a backup. He's got a chance to compete for the starting job here. So I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett's going to be the guy, but at least bringing some competition into this room because hey, Deshaun Watson's not going to play. So then there's other options out there, whether it be Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be realistic. I don't think they're going to sign Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is using this as leverage to go back to the Steelers. But to me, if it's not Cam Ward at the top, I don't know what we're doing. And if Jackson Dart's available, if they pick in the second round or if it's close and you want to move up a spot to, get the extra option year to get Jackson Dart, I'd be fine with that. And then if it turns into a later round guy and you want to try and mold him into that, that's fine. But to me, I am not investing the second overall pick in the draft on a guy in Shedeur Sanders that has a ton of questions. Everybody's acting like he's a sure thing. He's not. Neither is Cam Ward. But I would prefer Cam Ward just because of his attitude, because of his credentials and what he has done. And I just feel I would feel better about Cam Ward at 2. I don't feel great about it. And this whole assumption that, like, hey, what we saw at Colorado is going to translate to the NFL. Guys, if Shedeur Sanders' last name was something else and he was not Deion's son, this would not even be a discussion. He may not even be a first-round pick. Okay? So I do not think that Myles Garrett was talking about Shedeur Sanders. And maybe, and if he was, then, hey, the Sanders, rub is really worn off on a lot of people. Because I think this is a giant mirage. You guys are all being fooled. This guy is not, I mean, listen, if the Giants want to take him at 3, let him do it. Let him do it. They're more desperate than the Browns are for a quarterback. Just because you compounded a mistake, or listen, Baker Mayfield, that in the optics, it doesn't look great. But what I will say, they were right to move on. And I've been consistent on this. They were right to move off of him. They had to pay him. They didn't want to pay him. And the bridge had already been burnt. There was a lot there that, wasn't going to work out. And so you get to the point where you're like, okay, what are we supposed to do with this situation? And, there was multiple teams, I would say upwards of like 5 or 6, maybe close to 10, that were in the running for Deshaun Watson. The Browns got grossly desperate, did something that was just freaking unheard of, and Deshaun sold out for the money. What's he supposed to do? Okay. Like, I think he's a creep and I think he sucks, but the Browns offered him the contract. Jimmy Haslam's an idiot. And here we are. Just because you did that and got grossly desperate and fucked this organization doesn't mean that you have to go into the next draft when you have the second overall pick and go pick a quarterback that is inferior to most of the prospects that have been taken in the last 2 years. If you want to take Cam Ward, that's justified because Cam Ward is a great prospect. Or, good. Like, he's not, like I said, I still don't think either one of these guys are going to measure up to some of the top guys in last year's draft, which is good. It's just going to be remembered as a historically great quarterback class, especially if Caleb Williams turns it around. And if Drake May turns into a really good pro with the Patriots, like, it's going to turn into a historically great class because Bo Nix has already had a really good start to his career. But this whole notion that, like, everything needs to, we need to fix the quarterback. It's like, guys, what's the rush? What's the rush? Myles Garrett signed his contract. He signed up for multiple years. Like, what are we rushing to do in taking an inferior quarterback that isn't going to get you anywhere? Like, if you want to take a chance to try and mold a guy later in the draft and with a little bit less risk and it doesn't work, or you want to try with a veteran guy, bridge it and see how it works, I would be fine with that. But there are much better quarterbacks further down the line that, and frankly, I just don't think that this team is going to be good enough to ultimately, be in a position to make the playoffs. I think 2023 was a very, very fluky year, and Joe Flacco really masked a lot of issues with this team. So I continue to come on doing this segment, doing Browns thoughts, and just wondering what this fan base is thinking, and that, some reason, some way, we just get desperate and we get googly eyed with the first quarterback that we can think of just because he likes us. Guys, this is all a game. This is all a game. Shedeur knows that he's not one of the better prospects. He knows there's people ahead of him. So what's he supposed to do? Hey, let's create this mirage and create that I'm interested. They were desperate the last time, and I'm going to try and get them to draft me. Because let's face it, if he were a decent prospect, he tried the best to get the hell out of there. Okay? I just think that this is a weird conversation that we've been having for so long, And now because Miles Garrett is saying shit in the media and Travis Bazana, the Guardians draft pick in baseball, is putting stuff up on his Instagram, and everybody's just buying into this. Guys, this is silly season, and until we see something tangible that leads me to believe that they're going to draft this guy, like until that card is turned in, I don't believe that it is the right decision. If they make the decision and they think it's right, hey, Andrew Berry is, going out swinging. I don't think it's going to work, but here we are. So I do not get you people sometimes. So thanks so much for watching this edition of Brown Thoughts. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.